The day Hurricane Maria took everything from San Miguel Island, 4 teenagers lost more than their school. They lost their future. Yet in the wreckage, they stumbled onto something no one expected, a way to fight back. San Miguel was paradise packed into 8 square miles. Turquoise water kissed white sand, where blue and yellow fishing boats bobbed lazily at anchor. Bright houses, coral pink, lime green, sunset orange, climbed the hillsides like stubborn prayers. Every morning, children in crisp uniforms walked streets scented with salt and frying plantain, while reggae floated from corner shops where old men played dominoes under rattling tin roofs. But the same sea that gave so much also took. Hurricanes were as normal as church on Sunday. Every house carried scars, patched roofs, reinforced shutters, faded high watermarks. Lately, though, something had changed. Storms came more often, hit harder, twisted unexpectedly. The old fishermen shook their heads and muttered, "The water vex now." Meanwhile, in a small bedroom buried in the hills, 16-year-old Maya tracked that anger. Her walls were buried under weather maps, satellite prints, and hand-drawn storm paths. She checked barometric pressure the way other teens checked social feeds, constantly, almost without noticing. One day she pictured herself returning with a meteorology degree to protect her island. Yet at night, when the wind rose, she wondered if one girl with a notebook could ever stand in the path of a storm. Down at the docks, 15-year-old Diego wore his story on his hands, calloused, nicked, stained with boat varnish. He woke before dawn to work beside his father, reading the sea's mood from the color of water and the tilt of clouds. Survival, he believed, came from hard work and simple math, not dreams. Still, deep under his practicality, a quiet hope pulsed. Maybe the island didn't always have to be at the mercy of the next hurricane. Meanwhile, 17-year-old Carmen filled 3 notebooks a month, one for ideas, one for plans, one for problems adults ignored. With an aunt on the island council, she had seen how power and decisions moved through whispered favors in quiet meetings. She refused to accept that her generation's role was only to wait their turn. And up the hill from her, 14-year-old Junior turned broken electronics into miracles. He fixed phones with scavenged parts and spoke the language of circuit boards fluently. Nature felt wild and unfair to him. Technology, at least, played by rules. Then Maria came. The sky bruised purple. The wind, playful at noon, was vicious by midnight. Maria slammed into San Miguel with 175-mile-per-hour winds that howled like a freight train full of ghosts. Rain flew sideways, roofs peeled off, palm trees snapped. Power vanished. Hours blurred into one long scream. When the wind finally staggered and died, an eerie silence settled over the island. People stepped outside and found a place they barely recognized. Maya's precious weather charts were pulp on the floor, ink bleeding into one gray smear. Diego's workshop sat under muddy water, his tools already rusting in place. Carmen's carefully assembled college applications had been sucked out a shattered window. Junior's computer, his portal to the world beyond San Miguel, lay crushed under a beam. Yet the worst sight waited at San Miguel Secondary. Their school, hallways where they dreamed, classrooms where teachers promised futures, was a broken carcass of concrete and twisted metal. Desks floated in muddy water. Textbooks lay scattered and ruined. The 4 of them met in what used to be the courtyard, now a shallow pool of brown water and shattered glass. "At least we survived," Diego said quietly. Maya barely seemed to hear him. She stooped and picked up a cracked glass thermometer, its silver line of mercury long gone. Turning it in her fingers, she whispered, "But for what?" That broken thermometer would become the first piece of something extraordinary. First, though, they had to survive the weeks that followed. In the aftermath, time limped. Families crowded under half roofs with blue tarps flapping where shingles had been. The single working generator at the community center buzzed constantly. Everything else stayed dark. With school destroyed, days lost their shape. No bells, no homework, no plan. At community meetings, voices grew sharp. Officials spoke in vague promises, soon, as resources allow, once assessments are complete. Parents worried their children would lose a year of education, maybe more. Rebuilding the school kept slipping to later. 3 weeks after Maria, during one particularly tense meeting, an elder fisherman stood and thumped his cane. "These storms not like before. We used to know when they coming. Now, by the time we hear warning, it already too late." Another woman added, "We're always behind. We need earlier warning, not just bigger shelters after." From the back row, Maya felt something click inside her, clean, sharp, like two gears finally meshing. If late warnings were killing them, then maybe someone had to stop waiting for warnings from faraway offices. That night, instead of going home, she climbed over the caution tape blocking off the ruined school. Her flashlight beam cut across smashed desks, sagging ceilings, and scattered lab equipment. For hours, she dug through soggy cardboard and broken shelves until dust coated her throat and sweat glued her shirt to her back. Close to midnight, Junior found her. "Maya, what are you doing?" he hissed. "You trying to get yourself killed?" "Look," she said, dragging a crate toward him. Inside lay a mess of salvaged gear. Cracked thermometers, old barometers, rust-flecked rain gauges, bits of circuit boards. "They're damaged," she admitted, "but not dead." Junior knelt instantly, fingers hovering over the components. He could already see what could be rewired, what might still respond. "Okay," he said slowly. "And what if we don't wait for anyone to warn us?" Maya's words came faster now. "What if we build our own warning system? Real sensors, real data, our own eyes on the sky?" "You're crazy," Junior said automatically. Then his mouth curled into a grin. "You're crazy, and I want in." The next day, they tracked down Diego at the dock and Carmen at the relief center. Predictably, both pushed back. "With what money?" Diego demanded. "With what time? My father can't work like before. I'm needed on the boat." "And even if we pull something off," Carmen added, "who's going to listen to 4 teenagers with scrap metal?" "Then we make something so good," Maya replied, steady now, "they can't ignore it." There was no dramatic oath, no hands in the middle. Instead, each of them quietly realized that doing nothing hurt more than failing. That afternoon, they stood side by side in the ruins of their school as the clouds finally parted and sunlight spilled into the courtyard for the first time since Maria. They had no money, no degrees, and very little support, but they also had nothing left to lose. From then on, scavenging became a mission. Together, they walked the hurricane's rubble path, hunting not for furniture or clothes, but for wires, fans, broken radios, dead routers. Junior taught them to see components where others saw trash, sensors, batteries, bits of useful plastic. Meanwhile, Carmen marched into Mr. Chen's hardware store and refused to leave until he donated wire, sealant, and a dented toolbox. In the evenings, Diego's father, still skeptical, handed them old marine instruments from his shed, a battered anemometer, a stubborn old barometer. As they patched fishing nets, he taught them to feel pressure drops in their bones and to read stories in the curls of waves. They claimed a borrowed garage as their lab. Junior rigged together busted solar panels so they could power a laptop and a few tools. Whenever the island's unstable internet flickered back, they scrambled to download tutorials and textbooks, basics of meteorology, sensor calibration, entry-level coding. Their first prototypes failed spectacularly. A homemade rain gauge shredded itself in a mild squall. A humidity sensor reported numbers that belonged on some other planet. Solder joints snapped, code crashed. On those nights, quitting felt close and tempting. Yet small victories kept tugging them forward. One evening, a temperature reading from their clumsy sensor matched the official station exactly. Another night, a pressure curve from their barometer aligned perfectly with regional forecasts. Each success was a breath of clean air. Gradually, roles emerged. Maya became their scientific anchor, devouring any meteorology material she could find and interpreting the numbers. Diego turned scrap plastic and aluminum into sturdy housings and mounts.
Carmen documented everything with photos and short videos, posting their progress and explaining why it mattered. Junior's code stitched raw data into simple graphs ordinary people could understand. Months later, their first full weather station stood on the garage roof. It was ugly, zip ties, marine epoxy, mismatched plastic, but it worked. Soon, with the help of neighbors, they placed smaller sensors across San Miguel, on a church roof, near the dock, on the island's highest hill. The night the data feed came fully alive, temperature, humidity, wind, pressure, updating in real time, they fell silent. For the first time, they could see their island breathe. Not long after, a tropical storm spun to life east of Barbados. Official forecasts said it would curve north, brushing past San Miguel harmlessly. Life went on. However, as the storm crept closer, the kids' sensors started telling a different story. Pressure was dropping faster than
predicted. Wind directions on the eastern coast shifted in a worrying pattern. On Junior's screen, the graphs bent where they should have stayed smooth. "This track is wrong," Maya said finally. "It's not going north, it's coming here." They crowded into the garage at 2 a.m., arguing into the whirring of their fans. Trust their cobbled-together network or trust satellite-fed experts? "If we're wrong, people will laugh," Diego said. "If we're right and say nothing..." He didn't finish. So they chose to act. Carmen crafted a clear warning, not in scientific jargon, but in simple language: when the storm might hit, which areas were most exposed, what to secure. She blasted it through every channel she had: group chats, social pages, radio call-ins. Then they went door to door in their neighborhoods. Some families listened, tying down water tanks, moving valuables to higher floors, checking emergency kits. Others smiled kindly. "The radios say it will miss us," one woman told Junior. "You children don't worry so much." 12 hours later, the storm hooked south. Rain slammed San Miguel. Winds ripped at half-repaired roofs and flung loose debris. It wasn't another Maria, but it was strong enough. Houses that had followed the kids' advice held up better. Damages were smaller. Families were calmer. Others, unprepared, watched water pour through windows that could have been boarded. In the soggy quiet afterward, the question spread: how did those kids know? The local radio invited them in. The mayor, who had once dismissed their project as a nice hobby, now called them to his office. Praise came first, then came pressure. "Can you prove this wasn't just luck?" he asked. The four left City Hall with mixed feelings: relief, pride, and a new, heavy responsibility. They had been searching for purpose since Maria. Now they had it, and it was bigger than any of them had imagined. As word of the storm hunters spread, messages began arriving from other islands. A teacher in Antigua asked if her students could copy their designs. A community leader in Dominica begged for advice on building sensors with no budget. University researchers from Trinidad arrived and ran tests. To their surprise, the kids' data proved as accurate as professional stations. Donations from strangers trickled into Carmen's online fundraisers. More sensors went up. More teenagers joined remote trainings. A grassroots warning network quietly began stretching across the Caribbean. Then, just as everything seemed unstoppable, it almost collapsed. Their main server crashed during a rushed update, taking months of data with it. At nearly the same time, Diego's father injured his back, and Diego had to spend long days on the boat just to keep food on the table. A government official, irritated by their rising influence, went on radio claiming unverified warnings from unqualified youth caused panic and should stop. Under that combined weight, technical disaster, family pressure, political attack, the team started cracking. Exhaustion turned small misunderstandings into sharp words. Old insecurities surfaced. One evening, staring at dead screens, Maya murmured, "Maybe they're right. Maybe we're just kids pretending." Yet the story wasn't over. That night, Carmen burst into the garage, waving her phone. "We didn't lose everything," she panted. "I backed up most of the data to the cloud. We can restore a lot." Seconds later, Junior barreled in. "And our story?" he said, eyes wide. "A climate group shared it. The fundraiser blew up. We've raised more money in 2 days than in the last 6 months."
Soon, neighbors arrived with food, tools, and quiet encouragement. Diego's 10-year-old sister clung to him, insisting storms scared her less because of what they were doing. Then Junior checked his notifications again and choked. The Weather Channel had shared their video. Their following had exploded overnight. At dawn, the four of them stood outside the garage, the first light brushing the sea. "The next Maria is coming," Maya said. "Maybe not this year, maybe not next, but someday. And when it does, this," she tapped a sensor housing beside her, "won't just protect our island, it can protect others too. So we rebuild, smarter, stronger, together." 6 months later, an email arrived from the United Nations Office for Disaster Risk Reduction. Within weeks, the four stood in New York City, tiny against the vast hall of the UN, presenting their journey, from a broken thermometer in school rubble to a youth-led early warning network. When Maya finished, the room hesitated for a heartbeat. Then delegates from dozens of nations rose in a standing ovation. They were named Youth Leaders in Climate Adaptation. Grants and partnership offers followed, yet the moment that meant the most was simple. A Jamaican delegate asking, "Can you help our young people become storm hunters too? We need this everywhere." Soon, youth-run weather clubs sprouted across the Caribbean. Teenagers on different islands built sensors, shared data, and warned their communities together. When the original four came home, the airport overflowed with people. A banner read, "Welcome home, storm hunters." Children held cardboard weather stations they'd made in class. On the hillside, a rebuilt San Miguel Secondary gleamed, crowned with a permanent meteorological station bearing their names on a small plaque. Maya now held a scholarship to study meteorology with a promise to return. Diego split his time between fishing and teaching disaster preparedness to kids. Carmen coordinated a regional youth climate network. Junior worked on a Caribbean-wide early warning app that translated complex readings into clear, life-saving alerts. One evening, they met again on the same beach where they'd first argued over whether anyone would take them seriously. The sea breathed quietly. The sky glowed orange. "Think another storm's coming?" Diego asked, skimming a stone across the water. "Always," Maya replied. Then she smiled, glancing at the others. This time, their answer was in unison, calm and certain. "We'll be ready."